Everybody say OV ho. Say OV ho. Now step this way. Step this way. Let's see what the OV hoes are saying out here when they rich baby daddy. BBL Drizzy. BBL Drizzy. So we got what the dummy. Given his opinion, what can Drake do after UMG lawsuit dismissal? So let's see what the dummy got to say. And we see that OV Ho Mall is still in delusional state. We see that he's just, still holding on. Keep holding on. So let's see what the OV Hoes are doing, man. Is what the dummy going to be honest and say, bro, let it go, man? Or is he going to say, it's not over yet? Drake is still fighting. It's not over yet. The best advice that you can give Drake, what the dummy, is telling him just to move on. That's the best advice you can give. But let's see how he puts his cape on.
Drake's UMG lawsuit, defamation case against UMG for Not Like Us, officially gets thrown out by the judge. And a lot of people have been asking me to talk about this, especially off the strength of me covering the lawsuit when I break down the symbolism in the Iceman episodes. So I will do that. I will cover this. Let's look into it. So first off, this is the judge right here, Jeanette Vargas, and she was appointed back in 2024. She's a fairly new judge. She was brought in by Joe Biden, and the extent of her big rulings are pretty limited. She had one big case for Dogecoin. I'm not familiar with the case, but that was one high-profile case. And then the only other one was this Kendrick defamation case, right? Now, for Drake, he had some real heavy hitters on this whole thing. I do think what they did was kind of embarrassing, and I'll get into that. I think Drake wasted a lot of money, and if I was Drake, I wouldn't be very happy. But yeah, heavy hitters. This guy, Michael Gottlieb, he is not, he's not a lightweight. Big cases, big defamation cases. Work with Obama. I mean, this guy's the real deal, right? So he definitely did his best in picking the right people for the job, or so we thought.
That's crazy. So he got the best of the best and still took the L? And he still took the L? That lets you know how dumb this lawsuit was, that he got the best of the best and still got mollywopped. Wop.
Now, as far as the defamation part of this, the judge really just summed it up really simply as this is art. You both said crazy shit to each other. This is a rap battle. One of the things that Drake's legal team wanted to do was just look at Not Like Us and what was said on that record, which I agree with the judge. You can't really do that. You've got to look at the battle in its totality, which is exactly what she did in the paperwork. Now, defamation has never been an easy thing to prove, much less for a celebrity. It's damn near impossible. And, from the beginning, lawyers and professionals have all, they all said that this was a long shot for Drake. Proving defamation with rap lyrics is going to be tough. And there's always been two parts to this lawsuit, which is one, the culture of hip hop, where Drake is, people aren't going to be happy with seeing, a defamation lawsuit, or much less any lawsuit, riddled with lyrics from a rap battle, where the minute you put that into that paperwork, you're basically saying, these aren't lyrics. This is not art anymore. This is evidence. And that's why you saw a lot of people rally behind UMG, which is rare. It's rare for the people to, lobby behind a corporation. That barely ever happens. But in this case, because of what it was, that's why they did, because of the lyrics, right? But the other part to the lawsuit that I did agree with, and I think even if you dislike Drake, you could also agree that if any of this internal corruption, like what he was saying, went down, if even half of that is true, I feel like these executives should be held accountable 100%. I feel like they deserve to be exposed if those things happen. And I think a lot of people could agree with that. And had Drake just went after this part of it, the business part, the internal sabotage, I think a lot more people in hip hop would get behind Drake. But again, they're not going to get.
There's nothing to get behind because everybody knows that the music company is corrupted. Like, Drake is not exposing nothing. Well, so y'all just now finding out that the music industry is corrupted. Y'all just figuring that out? What took y'all so long to figure this out? See, this is how I know, like, y'all just meat gobblers. Y'all just dick suckers. So y'all didn't know that all this was going on before Drake. About Universal, they taking people's masters. Universal, they don't pay the artists. They don't pay the artists the way that they should. So y'all just finding this out. Just finding this out. Man, get the fuck out of here, man.
Get behind this. Now, for this lawsuit, there was actually 3 claims that Drake brought forth, right? 3 main claims that he was suing for. One of them was defamation, where, the judge basically said this is the First Amendment. This is free speech. No reasonable person would take Not Like Us, certified lover boy, certified PDF, as being a factual statement. And I find that interesting because I don't really know what a reasonable listener is. Like, to me, a reasonable listener in this situation would be someone who understands hip hop. I had someone like my uncle hit me up who's like a 50-year-old white dude who works at a fish plant. He heard Not Like Us, and he hit me up and asked me, is it true? Is Drake a pedo? But I don't look at my uncle as a reasonable listener because my uncle doesn't understand hip hop. Now, I can't speak for everyone, but for me, when two MCs go head to head, pause, and it gets to the point where you're taking it there in a personal way, where you're hurling.
Pause. It's so fun to hear him say pause. Pause. Stop. Eject the button. Shut up.
Very personal accusations at the other MC, and you're involving family, or you're like unearthing some sort of hidden secret, and you're exposing things about that artist. I'm of the opinion of those things need to have some truth to them, right? Obviously, some parts of battling is exaggerated, and hip hop in general. But if you're taking it there at a personal level, I feel like some of those things need to be true. That's just me. And realistically, a lot of reasonable hip hop listeners walk away from the battle also believing that Drake was a pedo. And again, all I could do is give my opinion. But when I went into this Drake and Kendrick battle, like, I wasn't expecting Kendrick, of all people, to just spew a bunch of like personal lies about Drake. Like, I didn't believe that at all. And I think most reasonable hip hop listeners would also think the same, that these guys weren't just.
No. Well, Drake put himself in a situation for this to even be a rumor. There is questionable things that Drake has done with younger women. Not saying that he, had sexual intercourse with them, but he puts himself in certain situations where you're like, why are you doing that? How old is she? Well, so it's not like this just came out of nowhere. No, people have reasons to be questioning, activities. And he's having sexual intercourse with them, but he definitely puts himself in a situation that makes you say, that's interesting.
It's going to go into this lying on one another. It's not really what I would have expected. But look, at the end of the day, it is art, and the judge saw it as such. And, most people from a legal professional standpoint weren't at all surprised with this. Now, one person that I think was surprised with this and wasn't prepared for this was Drake. And look, as calculated as you might think Drake is, I think we just gotta, be a little bit realistic. I don't think for one second Drake or his legal team were prepared for such an early dismissal. All you gotta do is think about what Drake has been doing post-battle, and pretty much the moment the battle ended, within weeks, he had started this plot twist Finsta account where, let's be real, he's posting all sorts of cryptic shit, owls on phone lines, and we will win game 2, and, he's got photos of Lucian Grange's daughter-in-law. A plot twist is like a unforeseen event, right? Like a turn of events that you would have never expected. That's a plot twist. He's posting stuff like this. The owl is gone laughing. He's really leaning into this whole thing. Here's the Sophia Grange right here. We've got full-on lyrics in reference to the lawsuit where he says, signal conversations. Well, I hope they got double encryption. I'd hate to see the empire crumble on judges' convictions. And then we've got these snippets in the Iceman episodes where Drake is talking about Supermax deals, and, there's other records where he's talking about how long will it take him to count out $2 billion. Then, of course, we got the I know what they did last summer. What do you think this is about? Of course, this is all about the lawsuit. And I'm just talking about how heavily Drake is leaning into this. And then there's the Iceman rollout itself, which is riddled with symbolism. We covered it all on his channel. And one specific thing that even Drake liked, you could see his name here, was a clip where I broke down who I thought was in that room, the Pinocchios. And, you can see what he's liking here is me describing what's going on in the lawsuit. Notice there is not a single moment where he even looks or acknowledges the Pinocchios. Drake's lawsuit alleges that Lucian was fully aware of the plan, but turned a blind eye to it. And that leads me to believe at a minimum that, I probably got these parts right. And that he is referring to the lawsuit in this symbolism. So no, I don't think Drake was prepared or his team for this early dismissal at all. And even the lawyers from the beginning who said, look, this thing's a long shot, even they were surprised that it got dismissed so early. From the Drake side, we got people saying UMG cut the check behind the scenes. Drake got a fat settlement, bro. He got a bag. No. Drake got nothing. Drake got nothing from this lawsuit, guys. Drake is in the red. Drake is in the red. He is out money right now, and a lot of it. And in this current moment, what's even more sad for Drake is that he went into this lawsuit with the main complaint being that UMG tried to lower his negotiation value. But now that the case is dismissed, his leverage is even worse. If he goes to the table with UMG to discuss business, which I don't think is off the table because his catalog is there, it's in the interest of both parties to try to work out some sort of business, some sort of deal. Now his leverage is even lower because he tried to sue them. Anyways, Drake's second claim that he was suing for was for harassment. And without the defamation element, once that was taken out and she dismissed that, harassment had to go with it. Basically, what the judge said was, look, Drake, if you feel like you've been harassed, you would have to go to the police because that is a criminal court case, not a civil court case. The only reason why Drake's lawyers included harassment in this case is because they're allowed to do that if there's defamation. But the second the defamation was ruled out, harassment is also out. I'm trying to be very honest and open about how I feel about this, right? And like I know people are trying to claim that Drake planned for this and this is all part of the plan, but I strongly disagree that he planned for this. Like, strongly disagree. And then we got the last claim that he sued for, which was consumer fraud, right? And this is to do with the bots and the payola stuff. Now, what the judge basically said was, Drake, you're not a consumer. This claim doesn't pertain to you because you're in business with UMG. Consumer fraud will be like they're frauding us as the listener. Like they pump Not Like Us up. They put bots behind it. They made it seem like this massive record. We're buying into it. They're frauding us because they're deceiving us as the listener. But none of that pertains to Drake because he's not a consumer. And then the judge just threw it out. So the judge said, like, look, Drake, this law doesn't even pertain to you. But even if it did, even if you could sue for this in this court right now, you haven't given us enough evidence to prove that any of this stuff happened. And the sad part about it is I believe Drake. I believe that UMG did do some shady shit in this battle. I don't think it's outside of the realm of possibility. I don't think it's a conspiracy theory to think that a record label could do some shady shit to one of their artists because we've been hearing about stuff like this for years. We've been hearing about payola since the 60s. We know it exists. We know that's how radio works. We know Spotify is rampant with bots. We know that record labels do have the power to freeze out.
Exactly. So what is he exposing? He's not exposing nothing. You can't expose that the devil is evil. Oh my God. Hey, guess what, y'all? I'm going to make a video and I'm going to expose that the devil is evil, y'all. Ooh, breaking news. Like, shut up.
An artist when that artist gets too powerful or if they get too independent. So no, I don't think that Drake is lying about these things. I don't think he's just making these things up. I really don't. He's not just making these things up. Drake is an artist who lived and thrived within this very system for a long time. Now, according to reports, Drake's team is vowing to appeal this ruling. And, I honestly feel like defamation is weak. There's a reason why all these legal experts have said that. I mean, the judge was very clear in her ruling that she felt this was freedom of speech. And the laws of defamation are not going to change just because it's Drake. The percentage of appeals that go through in court is something like 15, 20%. But when you talk about defamation, it's even lower. It's something like 5% of defamation cases get their appeals approved. So I'm just being realistic.
Does he have an OVO skateboard in the back?
By saying that if he goes this route, there's a very, very high chance, like a 95% chance, that this won't go through to the next stage. So, with all that said, where does this leave Iceman Episode 4 and really the Iceman album in general? Well, we already know that musically, Iceman needed to be something monumental, right? Like, this couldn't be a miss. This was a very important album musically for Drake. He had to deliver, and that was just off the strength of coming off the battle and how he was going to bounce back. But now with the dismissal of the lawsuit, the bar is up in outer space. It's out of here because I'm just being honest. Public perception of Drake, as low as it might have gotten after the battle, I think it's actually lower now.
There you go.
I think it's really, really low for Drake right now. So musically now he's got to do something out of this world. With that being said, DJ Academics made a really bold claim, and really this was the first time we heard from anyone remotely close to Drake's camp coming off the dismissal, was he predicted that Iceman would be a classic. It's going to be a classic album. I'm assuming that Drake showed him some of the music or something like that. I do think Academics had a little buzz going. I think he had a few drinks in him, but that's not rare. Here, you can see it here. He just got the word. Iceman's going to be a classic. Holy. Now, as far as episode 4 of Iceman, like the rollout, I don't know. One thing we do know is the character arc of the Iceman, like from episode 3, is unfinished. But because he heavily leaned into the lawsuit portion of it, I'm not sure where he proceeds from here because I don't think he anticipated the early dismissal. So things have obviously changed with the rollout. I think things have obviously changed musically as well. I think he's really got to go back to the drawing board and figure out how to approach the next episode, if there's even going to be one. I mean, one alternative is he could just go out there and fire on everyone and name drop executives and tell us exactly his side of the story of what he feels happened. But if he's going to appeal, which it sounds like he is, I don't think that's a good strategy. So it's going to be interesting to see what he does to finish off the character arc, because I think either way, the trajectory of the story has changed with this dismissal. I heard Rory and Mal recently claim that they feel there needs to be like this red button on the Iceman album, and I 100% agree. Something big needs to be revealed. Something big needs to happen. Like, it just can't be the standard album anymore. Way too much has transpired. There's been way too much shit between not just the beef itself, but the legal stuff. I'll never deny Drake's ability to be able to make amazing music. I'm confident there's going to be amazing music on the album, but there's a lot of things that people want answers for now, right? And like I said, his stock in the public eye is quite low from this dismissal.
He wasn't as
the lawsuit in this.
He wasn't sucking as much cock as I thought he was. He was fairly reasonable, fairly rational, fairly logical with his approach with some of the stuff that he said. So, it wasn't too much dick licking, as Joey Badass would say. It's still was some meat riding, you know. He wasn't. Let me stop talking like that. But in all honesty, to give what the dummy his credit, um, he was speaking some logical sense. He wasn't as delusional as Ov Ov Ho Mall, because Ov Ho Mall still thinks that Drake has a chance. At least what the dummy is like, man. Listen, let this go. You know, you had a long shot from the get go, and you need to just let it go. So, all right, what the dummy? It's not as bad as I thought, because I thought you just about to deep throat it. Pause, no Diddy, but you know, you were just going around the head a little bit. Pause, no Diddy. All right, y'all. It's your boy DFD. I'm signing out. Y'all leave a comment down below.